Reed, of course. John Reed, everybody. Let's welcome John Reed.
How is this? Great, thanks. I'm coming at the word busted from a completely different direction. Lying there staring at the ceiling, I thought, I am not Leonardo DiCaprio. And what's going through my mind is a scene from a film called Marvin's Room, in which he plays a disturbed young man who sets fire to his home. And the scene begins with a very tight shot of his face, and as the camera slowly pulls back, you realize that he's in a hospital and he's in 4-point restraints, meaning both wrists and ankles are in leather cuffs bound to the gurney. And I'm thinking about this as I'm lying in New York Presbyterian Cornell Medical Center, Westchester Division, and I'm in 5-point restraints, meaning wrists and ankles, but also a strap around my waist holding me to the gurney. And aside from DiCaprio, I'm thinking about how this most recent episode began like 3 months earlier, and how I flew to Mexico in an effort to outrun it, which doesn't make a lot of sense, but that's how it is. And as the plane descended into Puerto Vallarta, I was looking out the window, and I had this thought that I often have when I'm traveling. The buildings came into view, and I thought, every person in each one of those buildings believes, quite rightly, that he or she is the center of the universe. From each of us, this radius extends, encompassing all that matters. We're like billions of universes, billions of circles overlapping and interlocking, like an impossibly complex Venn diagram, that ever expanding. And as I was heading towards Mexico, I knew that my circle was becoming dislodged, and I was floating away from you. The image that best describes it for me is, one of those plastic shopping bags, caught, like in a winter storm, where the currents just kind of take it wherever they want, up into the black, cold sky. That's what it's like. And I was hoping, based on previous experience, that eventually the winds would die down, and I would come back and be able to join you, and our universes would interlock again. But I was afraid that it would only be for a little while, Now, they're only allowed to keep you in restraints for 4 hours at a time. So 3 hours and 45 minutes later, I punched the wall, back in restraints. 3 hours and 45 minutes later, punched the wall, back in restraints. 3 hours and 45 minutes later, I punched the thick wire mesh covering the plexiglass window. And I'm punching because I'm angry, and I'm angry because I'm trapped, not in the restraints or in the hospital, but I'm trapped in this broken mind that is malfunctioning, and there's no way to escape from it. But 3 days later, 3 hours and 45 minutes at a time, I'm out of restraints with broken wrist and bloody hands. 4 months later, the cast is gone, my hands are healed, and I'm allowed to rejoin you again. Now, for me, going mad is this is only for me. It's akin to getting fat, both of which I've done more than once. It's like, I know that my belt is too tight. I know I have to buy a larger size. I see the goddamn number on the scale going up. But nonetheless, it's not till like a year later and I've lost some weight that I look at a photograph and I say, my God, how did you let it come to that? How did this happen? This is what it's like when I look back these 16 years to that, which was my third, and I honestly believe my final hospitalization. Now, in the intervening 16 years, I have received phenomenal professional help, and help in every way you can imagine. To the point that I'm just basically a run-of-the-mill, neurotic. Like most of us. You know what I mean? And today I run a creative writing group at a psychosocial club for LGBT people with severe and persistent mental illness. That means primarily schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. And these are people who, a lot of them come to the club because it's the only meal they'll have for the day, or they get the $2 in car fare. These are people who have not had the advantages that I've had. And once a week, we come together, and they write about the stuff that's going on inside that maybe they're afraid to say out loud. And they often ask that I take them and read them alone in private, which I do. And this one young man who I'll call Tyrone, he writes about feeling separate, like he can't quite get in touch with us, And he writes about feeling trapped in this mental illness and like he's living a life that isn't quite his. Nonetheless, the entire time I've been at the club, Tyrone has been absolutely stable. At the points I've thought, why are you here? I mean, I would never say that, of course, but this is what I think. And then, like, a month ago, he arrived and he was nearly catatonic. I mean, he spoke to no one, no affect whatsoever. Transformed person, different person. And I watched as he made his way back to the art room, which is where I hold this writing group. You know, and like zombie-like, he made it to the corner and sat down and just stared in the middle distance, you know. And I followed him. And very softly, when I approached him, I said, Tyrone, is there anything I can do? And after a long pause, he said, you know, very, very quietly, would you just sit with me? So I did, you know, for an hour and a half, absolute silence. I mean, he doesn't want to talk, we're not going to talk. But in my mind, I'm thinking, Tyrone, I don't know where you've gone. I don't know where those cold, dark winds have taken you. But I want you to understand that when the winds subside and you're capable of rejoining us, I will be here to welcome you home.